What's going on, guys? My name is Billy. Welcome back to Comic Source, and today we're going to be talking about Falcon and Winter Soldier, Episode 3. This episode opens up with a Global Repatriation Council commercial, your typical everyday relief commercial that you see all the time on TV. But they do talk about borders being changed, and I wonder what borders are being changed besides Sokovia, which is later mentioned in the episode. Because you have to remember, in the last episode, Rhodey was talking to Sam, and he said that allies and enemies have changed. So I wonder how that's going to impact the future of the MCU. And then that moves us into the new Captain America in Germany, where the entire scene shows him unraveling in different ways, and I love it. And it reminds me of when Captain America was in Germany in Avengers 1, and he had this exchange with Loki.
You know, the last time I was in Germany
and saw a man standing above everybody else, we ended up disagreeing.
And it kind of just shows the opposite of what Captain America is supposed to be with John Walker, where he's the one that's standing above everybody else. And then, of course, we see him possibly getting lightheaded outside, which is just another way to show that he's unraveling. But then that pulls us into Zemo's cell, where they have a little hint of the same music from Civil War, which I loved. And the first thing that Zemo does is try and throw the activation words that we talked about last week at Bucky. And then Bucky asks Zemo what book he's reading, and he's reading Machiavelli, which I did a little bit of research, and Machiavelli is famous for Machiavellianism, which is psychology that refers to a personality trait which sees a person so focused on their own interests that they will manipulate, exploit, and deceive others to gain their own goals. Which kind of just represents what Bucky's doing here to release Zemo and what Zemo is as a character. And then I love this sequence of Sam and Bucky arguing about whether or not they should break Zemo out of prison when Bucky's already done it and he starts explaining to him how it worked. I just think it's a very creative way to show a prison break. Which of course that ends with Zemo showing up in the garage that they're in. And he's explaining to Sam, as much as the new audience, that he wants to eliminate these super soldiers just as much as they do. He has no intention of leaving his work being from Civil War, unfinished. And then that's when he stumbles upon his mask inside of his car. And in the comics, he's forced to wear this mask because he created Adhesive X, which is an insolvable adhesive, and it disfigured his face, so he's forced to wear the mask. And then this next scene is the start of many people, including me, starting to like Zemo as a character more, where we're reminded that he is a Baron, and I've learned that in his family there's actually 11 generations of Baron, and they actually started out lighthearted and kind, but over time, through greed and power, they became corrupted. But we do get confirmation when we're on the jet that the notebook that Bucky is using is the same notebook that Steve uses. We of course saw that in The Winter Soldier, which of course Sam brings up when he says that he recommended him Marvin Gaye.
Marvin Gaye, 1972 Trouble Man soundtrack. Everything you missed, jammed into one album.
I'll put it on the list.
Which does bring up a funny exchange with Zemo and Sam. But Zemo is right when he talks about how we put our heroes on a pedestal and then we start to forget their flaws. He toed the line well as to not piss off Bucky, but he's right. But then that's when he tells us that we're going to be going to Madripoor, which is very attached to the X-Men lore, especially Wolverine, who frequents a bar that we do see in the show. And then of course Zemo lets Bucky know that he has to bring back somebody that he believes is gone, somebody that he's trying to bury, but as hard as he tries, he can't do it. I think this is the part where what the therapist said came in, where he said that he wanted peace and she said bullshit. Bucky doesn't necessarily have to find peace, but he does need to bury the Winter Soldier. And then we get a shot showing some of Carly's motives, where she's visiting a family member that is very sick and is dying. And what I'm thinking is that this person might have gotten sick during or right close to the end of the blip and didn't receive help because there was no help during, or maybe because all the people coming back after they didn't receive help. So maybe that's why she started this. And then that's when we actually go to Madripoor, where Falcon is also going to be playing a role. He is the Smiling Tiger, who is a character in the comics. And the aesthetic of this town is perfect. I learned that the song that they're playing in the background is from an underground Filipino artist, and I've had that song on repeat all day. The LED lights in the background, just the whole vibe is fantastic. And then Zemo takes us into a bar, where he lets the bartender know that they have business with Selby. And Selby has the same name as a character in the comics who is a member of the Mutant Liberation Front, which is a group of disillusioned anarchic mutant youths. And then of course Sam has to take that disgusting shot, but GG's my boy, you took it like a champ. And then we get the first mention of the Power Broker, which if you remember from last week's episode, John Walker and Lamar actually submit themselves to the Power Broker's treatment, which gives them the super soldier powers. So I wonder if they're going to be having a meeting here in the future. And then we get a wonderful scene where Winter Soldier attack, and I love the close quarters combat that we've been seeing in episode 1 and here, where it's just close quarters Winter Soldier deadly, and I love it. And then of course they go up to Selby's office, where they're treating Bucky like properly. And this is kind of just to highlight and go really deep into how it really was for him that entire time. Literally just a piece of property. And then we get a tense/hilarious scene where Sam's on the phone with his sister, and of course she outs him to Selby and the goons, but then a third party shoots Selby from outside the window right after she reacts. And I like how when the three of them are leaving, they have like a John Wick style hit on them, where everybody's seeing it on their cell phones at the same time as they're walking out. I really enjoyed that. And then we get reintroduced to Sharon Carter, who we first see, of course, in Civil War, and she is the niece of Peggy Carter. She's a former SHIELD agent, and she has, of course, as we learned in the episode, but we knew already, she's been on the run for the past couple of years. But we do get that funny line where she says, "Stole the wings for your ass to save your ass from his ass." I just like when they turn the history lessons about Civil War into comedy. But they give Sharon the name that they learned from Selby, which is Wilfred Nagel. He's a scientist that works for the Power Broker, obviously, and recreated the Super Soldier Serum. And while she's tracking him down, she tells him to lay low and enjoy the party. And this party gives us a meme that we did not know that we needed, but we definitely needed. And I actually read earlier today that Daniel Bruhl, the actor that plays Zemo, he said that dance scene was actually filmed longer, so there's more footage of him dancing in the archives somewhere, and I'd like them to release the Zemo cut. I want to get that hashtag started right now, release the Zemo cut. But moving on, they go to Nagel's lab, and it cuts back and forth between them trying to get information out of him and Sharon outside just being an absolute monster. Like, I knew she was a great fighter and a great SHIELD agent, but I didn't know that she was this good. But then we learned that Nagel was actually picked up by Hydra because of the end of Civil War, where Zemo ended their Winter Soldier program, and then was of course picked up by the CIA, and perfected a subtle version, as he says, of the Super Soldier Serum. And by subtle, he means not super buff like Captain America. Like, these people can fit into a crowd anywhere. And then obviously, as Sam told us, he got them from Isaiah Bradley's blood, and he also confirms that Carly stole 20 vials, which might not seem like a lot, but I want to remind you that there was only 5 in Civil War, and those 5 were, by Bucky's standards, able to take down a country overnight. So imagine 20. And then of course Zemo kills Nagel, but at least he waited until they got all of the necessary information out of him. Might as well not leave him out there to make more. But the lab blows up, and while Sam and Bucky are arguing, Zemo goes to work. And I'm glad that they showed this. I hope we get a little bit more action from him, because we can't forget he was former Sokovian Armed Forces and the commander of Echo Scorpion, which was just an elite squad. And then of course we get another callback to Civil War, where Sam says, "You're not going to move your seat up, are you?" Of course echoing this scene from Civil War. And then that's when Sharon says, "We've got a big problem." Who's we? And what side is she on now? Because before she was talking a lot of shit about how heroes don't matter now. And being on the run for a couple years, especially living in Madripoor, that can probably radicalize her into something that we don't recognize anymore. And the actress that plays Sharon Carter actually responded to rumors that she's the Power Broker, where she said that there's multiple characters that have not been revealed yet in the show. So I don't exactly think that she's the Power Broker, but she might be in that area, or in that space. And then we get a scene of Carly and a member of her group discussing about how they're going to be stealing supplies from a place, talking about how Carly should take a moment to grieve. And then she also discusses what it felt like to take the serum, which is nice because we had a visual representation, of course, in First Avenger, where it wasn't really focused on the pain of it. It was more focused on his perseverance through that, just to kind of echo who he is as a character. And then, of course, in Winter Soldier, we saw somebody actually writhing in pain, but now we've got it in a verbal form. And then we learn that Walker and Lamar have found out about Zemo's escape, and we learn just how quickly John Walker's okay with going off the books, as Lamar says. And then yet again, Bucky and Sam are discussing about the shield and what it means, and this whole scene just echoes that Bucky just wants to honor his friend and what that shield meant to him. And then, of course, all of these scenes about Carly's motivation and about her grief, they've led up to teach us about how she's not necessarily a bad person, just a good person that bad things have happened to. But she's allowing this life and that pain and that fear to change her. And then Sam, Bucky, and Zemo are going to their next spot, and Bucky sees a Kimoyo bead on the ground, which I'm kind of angry with myself that I didn't recognize that it was a Kimoyo bead immediately. I will give myself the benefit of the doubt because they didn't beep like that in the Black Panther movie, and they weren't glowing here in the show. But this leads him to Ayo, who is a member of the Dora Milaje, which we've seen in Black Panther, Infinity War, Civil War. But maybe in the next episode, this is where we'll get that breadcrumb of information about T'Challa and how they're going to be moving on from Chadwick Boseman's performance. I'm really excited for this next episode. I wonder if Captain America is going to end up with the Power Broker, just like in the comics. And if you don't want to learn anything about TV spots or trailers or anything that show what might be happening in the next episode, that you're okay to click off the video now. This isn't like a spoiler or a leak or anything. It's just a screenshot from a TV spot. But anyways, I'm going to pull it up right here. John Walker is sitting in a warehouse alone, knelt next to the shield that has blood all over it. And while Walker might be able to use the bar scene with Bucky beating up everybody, and possibly if he has proof of Bucky facilitating Zemo's escape, he might be able to use all that against him. But I wonder at what point of his unraveling does that come? Does that come next episode or the episode after? Because we have to remember, there's only 3 episodes left. So things are about to kick up a lot in this next episode. But I really liked this episode. I enjoyed it a lot. Let me know what you guys thought in the comment section down below. Get that hashtag release the Zemo cut trending. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace.